So this is just using the power or the properties of exponents. So when you multiply two exponents, what do you do with their powers? Add them. So really what we can do is we can take this whole expression, has the same base, and we can add the powers. Okay, and then that whole thing is taken to the whatever power, 6. Okay, so if I added 1/4 and 1/3, those aren't in terms of the same denominator, right? So what's the least common denominator between them? 12. Now let me talk about this too, since we have a chance. Anytime that you need to find the least common denominator with numbers, just take the largest number that you have, in this case a 4, and then identify, is 4 a multiple of the other, or is this a multiple of the other number? So is 4 a multiple of 3? No. So then double 4. Is 8 a multiple of 3? No. Triple 4. Is 12 a multiple of 3? Yeah, and so that's your common denominator. So 12. If we convert each of these into twelfths, what do we have to multiply 4 by to get 12? 3. So we're going to multiply the numerator by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. And then we had this 3 here. What do we multiply 3 by to get 12? So we multiply its numerator by 4. So we get 2 to the 7/12, all to the power 6. So that's the first property. When you multiply two numbers with the same base, you add their powers. Now the next property is when you take a power to a power, what do you do with the powers? You multiply them. So if we took 2 to the 7/12 times 6/1, I would always represent like single numbers, non-fraction numbers as a fraction. Just write it over 1. That way you remember that you just multiply across the tops, or you can cancel between the top and the bottom. So if you look at this, 6 goes into 12 twice. 7 and 1, they don't cancel at all. So we can just multiply 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 1, 2. So you get 2 to the 7/2. Okay, now, as I mentioned, this probably will simplify for you. Okay, so if we took 2 to the power of, in parentheses, 1/4, times 2 to the power of, in parentheses, 1/3, close that whole thing off and take it to the power of 6, it should, okay, so in this particular case, we get 8√2. Okay, if I was asking you to simplify this and I asked you to put it in rational power, my expectation is that you're going to have this form. Is that what the book says, or the answer on there was? Okay, so I'm not looking for this form. So once again, it winds up being that your calculator doesn't necessarily help you out, other than the fact that we could take 2 to the power of 7/2, hit enter, and you can confirm that it's the same thing. So 8√2 and 2 to the 7/2 is the same thing. How would we convert this back? If I asked you to convert, let's say I gave you a completely separate problem, and I asked you to convert this into a radical form, you would write 8 times 2 to the power of, and what is the square root in terms of rational power? So this is what it would look like. I'm not going to ask you to put it in that form, though.